Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Where are we today? Well, we're in Everett, Washington. This is the Snohomish County Superior Court. Washington, I got a question for you. Do you feel safer today than you did 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago? Well, we know the answer to that. And there's a lot of reasons why you feel far less safe, but one of the reasons is what happens inside of buildings like this. Because last time I checked, the criminal justice system was supposed to be about accountability. Well, Washington, there is a new plan that is afoot right now, and if it is implemented, it's going to make your state even more dangerous than you ever thought imaginable. So today, let's get you educated and let's talk about the horrific plan that will make Washington State even more dangerous. Okay, Washington, this is what we're talking about today, and I'm going to have to be careful about what I say because I'm going to have to be a little bit critical about the Washington State Supreme Court. I'm going to have to be a little bit critical about the Washington State Bar Association. As a licensed member of the Washington State Bar Association, I must tread lightly. I asked you at the beginning, do you feel safer today than you did 4, 8, or 12 years ago? I know what the answer is, and I said a lot of that reason is what happens here. Now, I want to make another very important caveat. I'm going to be talking about public defenders today, and I got to tell you something. Nobody gets a more unjust, bad rap than the public defenders in Washington State. Now, I can only speak for experience. I practice predominantly in King, Pierce, and Snohomish County, but the public defense work that I have seen in those 3 counties is absolutely outstanding, and that's all I'm going to have to say about that. So this is in no way a criticism of public defense work. One of the problems that public defenders have, no matter where they practice in the state, is the volume of cases. They are very, very talented lawyers, and if they had a more manageable caseload, they would be able to do some pretty extraordinary work above and beyond the work they already done. The Washington State Bar Association has now put a proposal before the Washington State Supreme Court, which, if the Washington State Supreme Court adopts it, will significantly limit the number of cases that public defenders can handle in a given year. And it would significantly cut their caseload by as much as half or even more. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's a bad thing. I think that, candidly, public defenders have a far too great a caseload. But the problem is that we already are in a state right now where multiple cases are being dismissed because they cannot find an attorney for the defendant. And without the right to counsel, the prosecution would be unconstitutional in nature unless the person was afforded the benefit of having counsel. And there has been multiple incidents throughout the state already in which individuals are being released for no reason other than they can't find them an attorney. Now, current restrictions say that for felony attorneys, they can handle no more than 150 felonies a year, and for the public defenders that are doing misdemeanor work, no more than 300 cases a year. And yes, I will tell you, those are astronomically high numbers. If the new guidelines go into effect, the most that a felony attorney could take would be 47 cases. The most a misdemeanor attorney could take would be 120, and that would be based upon the point scale of the case, because some cases, which are in fact more complicated, would be assigned a higher point value. And so you could literally have some public defenders that are taking less than a dozen cases a year and thus meeting their quota. Oh, and the proposal, by the way, would limit the number of times a private attorney could step in and actually work a public defense case, thus again limiting the number of available attorneys for these individuals accused of crimes. And currently, Washington State is suffering its largest attorney shortage in the history of the state, and perhaps one of the reasons why the State Bar Association and the State Supreme Court has decided they're not even going to give a bar exam anymore in this state. One suspect who was accused of breaking into a motorcycle shop was eventually released from jail because they couldn't find him an attorney, only to have him rob a Chase Bank the very next day after his release in Kennewick, Washington. Another defendant from the Tri-Cities area who was jailed on sexual assault charges, where he lured a woman into his building on the promise of a free tattoo and then sexually assaulted her. Yeah, he sat in custody for 5 weeks until the court realized they could not find him an attorney. They released him. He since has disappeared, nowhere to be found. And listen, there's not many people sounding the alarm, but a couple of state prosecutors are, one of which King County prosecuting attorney Lisa Mannion. I have serious concerns over the WSBA proposal. I believe it could lead to a catastrophic fiscal and practice impacts on the criminal justice system. Benton County Prosecuting Attorney Eric Eisinger is also sounding the alarms. It puts us in a really hard spot because of the elected prosecutor. The last thing I want to do is make my filing decision based on defense attorney availability issues. My charge from the county, from the citizens of my county, is to protect the public, vindicate the rights of victims, and protect society from falling apart. And Benton County Prosecuting Attorney Eisinger was also quick to point out, I think that at a minimum, this is being done with reckless disregard of what outcome will be, which is, frankly, the crash of the criminal justice system if this goes forward. But you see, head of King County Public Defense, Anita Andewall, in response to Lisa Mannion's concerns, basically said that maybe the prosecutor's office should just quit prosecuting so many crimes. And listen, this is not the first time that she has advocated for soft on crime policies, including during the pandemic when many violent and sexual offenders were ultimately released, only to go out and wreak havoc on our communities again. But in response to Ms. Mannion's concerns, she was quoted as saying, prosecutors could exercise their discretion to prosecute charges that are likely to protect public safety. For instance, there's no evidence to suggest that arrest and prosecution for property crimes deters individuals from engaging in crimes. Perhaps we could implement programs involving cash transfers because they have been shown to decrease crime, particularly property crimes. So let me get this straight. What we're saying is perhaps we should not even prosecute property crimes, and instead we should pay off criminals not to be criminals. That is actually a policy which is being floated, and if the Supreme Court accepts the Washington State Bar Association's proposal here, it may be the only thing that they will do to try to quell what's going to obviously be a constitutional crisis here in the court systems. Listen, if this proposal is adopted, while I understand that the interest and the heart of it is in the right place, which is to make sure that public defenders have manageable caseloads, so therefore they can provide their constitutional duties to each and every one of their clients, the solution right now is that we're just going to have to limit the number of prosecutions in this state, which means not only will property crimes go unprosecuted, but you're talking about a lot of low-level violent crimes that will also go unprosecuted. And it will remove from the system the very thing that the entire criminal justice system is based upon, which is accountability. Now, understand one of the reasons that there are so few public defenders in the state of Washington is the incredibly low, crappy pay that they get. And in fact, in many jurisdictions, prosecuting attorneys actually make more than their public defense counterparts. Not the case here in Snohomish County. Good on you, Snohomish County. So really, the solution to this problem would, of course, be to hire a lot more public defenders, right? Of course, that takes money, and where could we find that? Well, let's see. Oh yeah, there is that $1.17 billion of unused COVID relief that we can't seem to account for. Boy, that sure would be able to hire a lot of public defenders, wouldn't it? Listen, Washington, this state has come up with a lot of crazy ideas that have made this community a lot more dangerous. And candidly, for the cost of living that all of you have to absorb to live in this community, you all deserve better. But this plan may actually take the cake, because this is a plan to actually dismantle the criminal justice system in the state of Washington. Listen, Washington, if you want to weigh in on it, the Washington State Supreme Court is accepting public comments, and you can do so by visiting them at supreme@courts.wa.gov or mailing them directly at P.O. Box 40929, Olympia, Washington, at 98504-0929. We'll go ahead and link all of that up in the description box so that you can follow through on that. You may have questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights here in Washington State. If you do, you should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information's down there on the description box. Maybe you got an idea for a video. If you do, go ahead and click on that link right there. Or maybe you just want to be part of our newsletter. If you do, the link to subscribe is down below in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. From Snohomish County Superior Court, thanks for watching. Stay safe.